First story. Entitled SIL abused my cop brother to a point of ending himself, so he left her. Now she falsely claimed he sawed, assaulted, and tried ending her baby. Then she married the investigative lead who hates my brother, and both twisted the story to put him behind bars. But that B-SIL shared her every abuse on Snapchat to feel good, which ended up ruining her life and saving my brother's. I've sister been sitting on this post for a while due to feeling completely helpless against toxic people and a corrupt system. What will typing this out hurt though? Maybe someone who can help or offer solid insight will see this. At the very least, letting this out is cheaper than a $150 therapy session. Bottom line, my brother burned some professional bridges during his time as a cop, and his narcissistic former wife is using that to her advantage by trying to destroy his life with baseless SIL allegations. My brother was arrested almost 2 years ago after slapping his then wife and threatening to kill himself in a drunken episode. The articles claim a lot more happened, but of course these claims are preceded with the term alleged, and there is no evidence for any claim besides police photos of a slap mark. Fun fact, you can print whatever you want if you put the word allegedly next to it. The woman who begged him to marry her 4 months after meeting to prove his love then decided to claim after his DV arrest that he sawed her and attempted to kill her over a dozen times before and throughout their short-lived marriage. Astonishingly, she didn't document these harrowing incidents, but was able to produce exact dates of these 10+ alleged incidents just from memory alone. Innocent until proven guilty, you say? Lol. During his time as an officer, my brother had personal tiffs with the who is on this case, and with 2 former friends at the police agency who arrested him, which I believe is why this has been blown totally out of proportion, and he has been subjected to an unusual level of scrutiny. The Leos who hate him directed info to the newspapers, and they made sure to completely tarnish his reputation by listing every unproven allegation in great detail. I can't help but notice that is highly uncommon for initial articles about an arrest. Usually it's kept brief because, well, a presumption of innocence until proven otherwise is thought to be a human right. They have pushed back my brother's trial multiple times, withheld his phone from legal rep for over a year, and claimed to have no prior knowledge of him before his arrest. He's been in jail for close to 2 years now with no movement at all. Weirdly enough, after the DV incident, he and his wife went out for breakfast the following morning as if everything was normal. That day, after their breakfast, my brother quickly packed some stuff and decided to leave his wife. I gave him a ride to pick up his other belongings that afternoon. He went to work, and that was the last I saw of him. His ex was manipulative and controlling, constantly triggering his PTSD and insecurities for laughs. Allegedly, she chased him with a knife and threatened to cut off his genitals because of his promiscuous past. That was a big trigger for her, and I think she carried a lot of resentment and jealousy over that. Also, allegedly, she anally sawed him with a breadstick in his sleep and posted about it on Snapchat the following morning. My brother was trapped and miserable with her. She was charming at first, as they all are. Within months of meeting her, he sold his house she told him to, because he had sex with other women in that home, paid her a year's rent in advance, gave her thousands of dollars for groceries, and whatever else, even though she claims to be a millionaire. She didn't allow him to communicate with women, and would constantly stalk him at work. She has IT training, and managed to get into his police computer database. Dude had enough. She said that she'd ruin his life if he left her, but he walked out regardless. That's when the cops were called. At first it was the slap. Then she started alleging everything else under the sun. Of course his former cop friends and fragile ego lapped it up. His ex had all of his social media passwords and started scrubbing damning evidence against her soon after his arrest. Unfortunately, I couldn't catch the Facebook stuff she removed, but I do have dozens of login dates and times attached to her phone. She took a bunch of screenshots of his Snapchat messages with friends and then scrubbed it completely. Hopefully that data is retrievable because his Snapchat is littered with stuff that will get those SIL claims laughed out of court. She wasn't shy about making videos about and discussing her kink sawed, choking, Shrek, and dress up in socks, sandals, a golf shirt, and shorts like my absent father. My brother has always been a fool when it came to women. He unfortunately had a child with another petty narcissist who is now using this situation to her advantage by harassing our family, keeping our niece away from us, and trying to take his entire disability check away from him, so he won't have any income after this laughable and not happening, but still so pathetic. His exes, who once hated each other, are now ganging up and have been harassing my family and doing a lot of social media trash talking. Oddly enough, his wife mustered up the courage to trust and love another man again, and is now engaged to someone she started dating a few months ago. And guess what? He is a cop who works for the department that arrested my brother. Everyone in his circle knows what a joke and injustice this whole situation is. He is still sitting in jail. They've been doing everything in their power to make him miserable and get him to break, but he's handling this remarkably well. As my brother was booked in jail, the DO warned the corrections officer that he's a psychopath like Hannibal Lecter. He was mistreated and threatened constantly by other inmates until they actually got to know him. He is well liked and respected there, at least. I want everyone to know that he is a man of character who reached a breaking point, and that his ex is a con artist. Maybe they will find out during the trial. But I'm sick of waiting. We want to live, laugh, and litigate once he's out. I was never close with my brother until this. We have two distinctly different personalities, and just didn't vibe growing up. I know him, though, and it is breaking my heart watching this all go down. He has combat-related physical and mental health issues that are not being treated. He's a tough guy, but how much bullshit can one take? He has a ton of support from family and friends, but strangers don't have that insider perspective that we do. It's honestly surreal. With all that said, what can I do? I feel powerless. He has a decent lawyer, but communications are sparse. As a family, we have poured at least $50,000 on this nonsense, using our savings, retirement funds, and taking out loans. How can I help my brother, my family, and myself know that there will be a light after the tunnel here? Part of me wants to make a Facebook page, spill some tea publicly, or just let nature take its course. I'm just tired of being quiet because, to some, silence is equals to acknowledgement of guilt, when, truthfully, my silence is equals to depression, exhaustion, and fear of pushback from dirtbags in power, and narcissists with no jobs, no fulfilling personal lives, and no limit when it comes to harassing others. Feel free to ask any questions and offer insight. There is still plenty of tea in my kettle, believe it or not. Thanks for reading. Update. I made a post a couple of weeks ago about my brother being falsely accused of over a dozen violent SIL attacks when he left his narcissist wife after a domestic violence incident. The other day they had a jury selection hearing, and we didn't realize it would end up leading to a massive chunk of his charges being dismissed. Thankfully, my brother's attorney had damning phone records on hand and walked right up to the judge and showed her everything. He also notified her that his ex-wife is now engaged to a state trooper involved in the investigation. The judge was having none of it, and the crooked da realized she dug a really deep hole and started saying, let's settle, in a panic. He went from over 15 charges to 4. All's ex-related charges dropped. He had to plead to a couple things he didn't want to. But by taking this deal, he will be out of there and back home soon. Plus, he won't go to trial. The DA read his ex-wife's victim statement for her, which basically just said, I found a real man now. Over 150 people were there to witness this glorious moment. I wish I was one of them. I heard all about it, though, and I am so glad their game was put to an embarrassing end. The DA dictates information to our local paper and tried to spin this one really well. Her explanation was, the victim wants to close the door on this and never look back. They asked for me to make a plea deal so they won't have to go through a trial. Seriously. So he went from 12 SIL charges, one of them with a penalty of 30+ years, to another 9 months in jail, and it's a win in their eyes. It's probably a hopeless cause, but a few of his friends and I emailed the author of the article that was posted and gave him some key information that was oddly left out. I will be getting my brother's phone back soon and will not hesitate to use it to defend my brother. I made him a GoFundMe if anyone is interested. PM me if you want to donate or just to read the page and see some pics of my brother. Thanks for the support, everyone. I got your back too. Update on our men's rights. Brother falsely accused of SIL by his ex. Charges dropped after they were disputed, but his reputation is ruined. What to do? This is a big one, and I'll try to sum it up as simply as I can. For more info, I have some previous posts on my profile if you want to check them out. Basically, my brother was a cop for 10 years. During his time as a cop, he made some poor decisions that would later haunt him. He angered the DA by calling her out on specifics of a case, and he poed multiple state police officers because he slept with one of their wives. Dumb, but he wasn't the only one in that group who had a turn with her. My brother rushed into a relationship and marriage with a woman he met on a dating app. Things moved quickly. He sold his house she told him to because he slept with other women there, gave her over $10,000 for future expenses, and ended up marrying her within 6 months. She is attractive, highly sexual, and perfect bait for a man in heat. Things went way downhill once they were married. She became more controlling and abusive and demanded more from him. She resented the fact that he had an extensive sexual history because she is deeply insecure. He was cut off from friends, particularly female ones and family, and she stalked his every move and impersonated local women to add his ex's private social media profiles and stalk. I'm looking forward to reading all of the texts because what I've seen so far is psychotic. Things came to a blow one night when they had an argument. My brother got drunk, slapped her, and put a gun to his head. His PTSD had been untreated and elevated at that point, and she liked to trigger it. He cooled off, and the next morning they got breakfast as if nothing happened. My brother decided that he reached his breaking point with her and had to leave. He packed his things and left her house of horrors. She called the police and initially claimed that he hit her until her jaw moved out of place and that he tried to shoot her and his sleeping child. However, the specifics of the story kept changing. Later on, she claimed that he had been roping her constantly and threatening her with weapons over the entire course of their relationship. 12 more charges were added on. State police arrested him, and the DA took on the case. This is an important part to remember. My brother knew that his phone would save him from most of these charges, especially the sex-related ones. His phone was littered with frequent sexual requests, fantasies, and the like. She was constantly abusing him, threatening him, and berating him through text as well. He also had a lot of helpful data on Snapchat and Facebook, but she logged into those accounts and scrubbed everything. The state held his phone from him for over a year despite repeated requests. Finally, a few weeks before the projected trial date, they handed over the phone with partial data. His side questioned why only part of the data was pulled, and they said, "We can get the rest and delay trial or proceed with what we have." They decided to get all the data. I'm not sure when it began, but his ex started seeing the officer in charge of the investigation. After they went public, they got engaged, and he left his wife. The pattern begins. At this point, my brother had been sitting in jail for about a year and a half with very little movement. He finally had a jury selection hearing scheduled. Jury selection came, and it was a catastrophe for the prosecution. His attorney presented the judge with my brother's phone, and with the fact that his ex had been seeing the lead of the investigation. The judge was having none of it. She was appalled, and the state had no choice but to drop all 12 SIL charges. My brother took a plea deal, which gave him 3 years behind bars total. He made the mistake of admitting to what he actually did in interviews and decided to plead to 2 additional allegations that weren't true. He and his lawyer decided to go for the deal. It would get him out of jail, and he wouldn't have to worry about the risk of a jury trial. When this all started, his ex-wife started rounding up all of his ex-girlfriends and friends he had and started trash-talking him. Some of his friends turned against him. The mother of his child has always been bitter toward my brother and used this opportunity to take his daughter away from him and isolate her from my family. She went to court and demanded more child support. His ex and baby mama harassed our family. They showed up at my parents' house uninvited and demanded that they give them his daughter's toys. We didn't want to deal with the BS, so we just gave them the toys that my brother paid for. That wasn't enough. She wasted low-income legal resources to get an attorney to badger my mom about this even more because she didn't get all the toys. She wanted my old dolls from the 1990s that my niece played with when she visited. We sent a firm response, and that was the end of that. His ex-wife is constantly around his daughter now and parades her around on social media, even though when they were together, she resented the kid for taking attention away from her and never posted a thing about her. Her victim statement in court was basically, "I found a real man, and we will have a happy life with my kids and your daughter." After the hearing, the DA made her statements in the paper and spun the situation around completely. She said that the victims asked for a plea deal so they wouldn't be re-traumatized by a trial. Sure, he was going to face 30+ years if found guilty. She omitted many key facts. When the judge was presented with evidence of the accuser's lies, the DA panicked and said, "Let's settle, let's settle." Over 150 people witnessed it. My brother's reputation has been tarnished. All stories about this situation from beginning to end have been dictated by the state police and the DA's office. These articles made the front page, were extremely detailed, and had a lot of allegedly. People were really upset, believed it all, and thought he was a psychotic monster, and the DA made that argument during every hearing. Oddly enough, only one news outlet reported on the recent fact that all his ex charges were dropped. Anyway, I don't know what to do. The investigation was botched from the beginning. I'm going to get all of the records from this case and pick up my brother's cell phone. Should I share the info online? Should I contact a news outlet? I don't want these people to get away with this. As a part of his plea deal, he cannot speak publicly about the case, and he can't sue the DA or state police. Convenient. Hate to end on this note, but I made a GoFundMe for my brother. This cost our family over $50,000, and we are wiped out entirely. I want my brother to have a cushion when he finally comes home. He has to start over completely. He sold his house, his new truck was repossessed, he blew all his money, and basically all of his VA checks went to child support. He has to fight to get his daughter back. It's a long road ahead for him. He has plenty of friends and family by his side, though. Let me know if you want the link for any reason. You can read what I wrote, chip in, or just see some pictures of the guy. I feel so bad for him. He's going to crash with me when he gets out. Thanks for your time. Please share any ideas or thoughts you may have. I want this unjust situation exposed. Second story. Caught my wife cheating on me with my friend. Then showed attitude believing she will receive 60% of my income as alimony and child support, and quit her job. So I ruined her life. Now she has no family who cut ties with her, lost custody of our daughter, is exposed as a cheater all over town, and is in $50K debt with no job. So to start, me M26 and my wife F28 were happily married for 6 years, and I was the only one making decent money, $120,000-$200,000, while she was a stay-at-home parent with our daughter F5. One day after coming back early as my engine went out on the way to work and a friend dropped me off back at home, I caught her cheating while I was supposed to be out and our daughter was at preschool. After some yelling at my friend to get out, not the friend that dropped me off, and yelling at her, she started the crying and apologized, said it was a mistake. I calmed myself down and went with the flow. I told her I needed some time to think and left. A few days go by of her checking up on me at my mom's house, and she tells me she'll wait however long it takes for me to forgive her, and also says that we should do marriage counseling. I agree and tell her I think we can get through this. But really in my mind, I'm trying to figure out what to do next, and I'm already emotionally checked out by her. So a year goes by. But through this year, I've done a lot. Like withdrawing the money from my bank. I have 2 accounts, one for myself and one for both of us. But she still knows about my separate one. I've also downgraded our house significantly. We used to have a 3,000 square feet house, and the rent was around $300-400. But I took us down to an apartment costing $1,100-ish. And I also forced her to get a job to pay for the place counseling. Anyway, after getting all my money out, I got my mom, who has Mexican citizenship, to let me use one of her houses in Mexico as an address line to open a bank balance account. And I dump all my money in there under her name and go get a lawyer. After everything is set up, I show up back home and lay down the divorce papers in front of my wife and tell her we're done. She starts with, "I thought we were doing well," and I tell her, "We didn't cheat, you did." And I leave back home with my mom until court day comes. And every day she's visiting while trying to seduce me into coming home. But eventually the day comes. But before I go, I sell my car for what few thousand I can get and have my mom drop me off. A few things happen that really made matters a lot harder than I expected. For example, she knows that I have my own bank account separate from our joint. But I also knew she knew. So I obviously made that aware as to not get in trouble. But that introduced another problem. I made $200K a year. They knew this from my taxes. But I have only about $4K in my account from selling my car when I should have another $1 million in there. Anyway, the court pretty much demanded to know where the money went. And I told them that my girlfriend, not my wife, was an expensive girl. And that was that in terms of court. After my ex-wife doesn't believe that I have another girl since I'm always with my daughter when I'm not working, she tries to get a financial advisor. But he was going to charge around $20-50K depending on what he had to do. Now believe it or not, between paying for the apartment, our daughter, and counseling, after she cheated, I pretty much used that as a get-out-doing-everything card. She didn't actually have enough money for one. So she took out a loan and borrowed from her parents to get one, which actually kind of scared me. But I guess he couldn't find anything, which really backfired as now she has to raise a kid and pay for her own place, vehicle, etc. On a team lead's salary, I'd assume around $22 an hour. But not all is well yet, as I was still ordered by the American court, foreshadowing, to pay her $1,700-400 a month out of the $12K I make due to alimony plus child support. And she tells me that's more than enough for her to live without me, and she can quit her job. And she's right. But not really, as I tell her that I swear on my life that she wouldn't get a penny out of me. And well, she didn't. I moved to Thailand, which cost a bit more than $100K USD. But I could stay for 15 years on it, which I could probably make back in a year. Anyway, I call my ex and let her know I'm not in America anymore, and that she should really consider getting her job back. I wasn't trying to be quirky. And I know this is going to sound very hypocritical, but I didn't want my daughter to end up homeless. My ex-wife gets rightfully pissed and tells me she won't manage without me and starts begging on the phone, saying how she changed for me and all that. After that, I'm getting call after call. Most are saying they'll miss me since I won't be able to come back because I'm wanted in America for child support. But some were obviously pissed off I had abandoned my wife and child. To them, I uploaded on my Facebook the pictures of my wife with my friend that she was cheating on me with, which turns out he had a girlfriend as well, who called me asking why I didn't tell her sooner, to which I said I didn't even know she existed. That was 2 years ago, and as far as I've heard, she's doing pretty terrible and had to give up our daughter to her parents while paying them child support as they didn't even want to care for her. Her parents blame her for everything, which probably wouldn't be happening if I didn't often spend time with her dad, and after I found out my daughter was with them, which was a little over 4 months after I left her. I did start paying her mom $1,000 a week to help a bit, but I did also ask that they not tell my ex. I even get my sister to check up on them, as I really don't want my ex getting a penny. TLDR, my wife cheated on me, and I hid all my money and left my daughter and wife with nothing and $50,000 in debt. Some extras that didn't fit in. Reason I said $200,000 was because at the start of our marriage, I was making $100,000 a year after taxes. But I was investing most of that into an AITAH that was increasing the money I put in by about 10% a year, which I still live off of in Thailand without working. My ex is pretty ruined in our area since I posted pictures of her and my friend she cheated with on Facebook. My daughter and I FaceTime every night before bed and screen share the new movies that come out. Comments. Wish _upon_a_star1. Fine with getting revenge on your wife, but it sounds like you just cheated yourself out of being a hands-on dad. OP. I didn't have a choice. If I stay, I lose 60% of my check for the next 3 years. Luna Sisu. Your wife cheated, and you're punishing your child. Who's really losing out here? Not that I agree with cheating, but your attitude makes me wonder what led her in that direction, because you honestly sound like a kniving manipulative dirtbag. What crumby human calculates that SHT for a year, then up and abandons their child? That is some psychopathic BS right there. Title should be, I'm a psycho that ruined my child's life. Be proud. OP. I am proud and wouldn't have done it if she didn't cheat. But it's whatever. Luna Sisu. First off, I'm not a sir. That's juvenile. It was exactly as I said. Wondering by his current actions what type of person he is that his wife would run to another man. While also stating that I don't agree with cheating. I reiterated that because I knew some woman-hating moron would come in and attempt to psychoanalyze my comment. This man led a woman to believe their marriage was salvageable for a year, while he was also having an affair and strategically setting himself up financially so that he could abandon his child. My original post was simply that the child should not be punished for her mom's actions, and he's obviously just a crap person anyway based on his behavior. Please don't make what I said something it wasn't. What he did and has done is wrong. What he did prior was likely all the same. A normal person is not this cold and calculated, which means he's always been a bad apple. It takes more than an affair to make someone take the steps he did. In honesty, I believe OP was the one having an affair, got caught, played the better game, and decided to go play house with someone else, because this is what his attitude and behavior show him for. I'd say the same if it were a woman. He's justified by himself, being a coward and master manipulator who abandons his children. OP. I never cheated. And I never dated another girl since her or dated a girl or had intimacy with another girl while with her. And I never claimed I did. Also, no cheating on somebody can easily change them. I know I am a bad person, but I did my best given my situation. Third story. I ran away from home after neglectful dad grounded me when my stepmom abused and bullied me constantly, causing my grandparents to disown my father. Now both have found me and apologized, begging me to reconcile. This happened in 2020, but it recently got brought up, so I thought I'd ask. So I 17F used to have a great relationship with my stepmother. I genuinely saw her as a mother figure in my life, and I was so excited when she found she was pregnant. But everything changed in 2020 when I had to stay prematurely with my dad during the lockdowns because my mom is a surgeon. At first everything was normal until my stepmother Tammy was about 4 months pregnant. She started snapping at me for no reason, and things that she didn't care about before now bothered her. Now I wasn't a messy or loud person. I did everything I was asked and respected the rules without any backtalk. But no matter what I did, she got angry. It came to a point she couldn't stand being in the same room as me. I remember I ended up staying in my room most of the time. I only left to do chores or get something from the kitchen. Even at that, she got mad. Like one day she came into my room angry and started yelling that my room was so smelly, it was making her sick. I pointed out that the only mess in the room was a half bag of chips, which caused her to burst out crying. As always, Dad babied her and made excuses, saying she's struggling over lockdown, pregnancy, and not being able to see her family. My mental health was extremely bad. I felt like I was a piece of trash that at any day my dad was going to throw away, and I was always scared my mom would get sick. It went so bad my hair started falling out. The breaking point came when I was at the kitchen table. I was reading a story on my phone, waiting for my cereal to go soggy to eat it. When Tammy came and huffed, they started cleaning loudly, complaining about a mess. The kitchen was spotless. Then she took my bowl and threw it in the bin, literally even the bowl. So I just flipped and started yelling at her what her problem was with me and called her an abusive effing B, among other things. My dad came running and got between us. She demanded that I leave the house, that I was never allowed near her kid. Dad walked me to my room and said something that ruined our relationship forever. He told me that I must do something to Tammy because no one hates a kid for no reason, and if I kept stressing her, I'd have to move out. I then made a social media post asking someone for a place to stay, explained the situation in detail, packed a bag, and climbed out of my bedroom window bungalow. After about 30 minutes, my phone started blowing up, but I just turned it off and went to a friend's house. I texted my mom off my friend's phone to let her know everything. She didn't call for 7 hours because she was in surgery. She said my aunt would pick me up the next day. My mom told my father I was okay, and that I'd be staying with my aunt for 2 weeks till she could come home. Apparently Dad and Tammy had to go door to door to my family friends' houses looking for me. You know, after I made the post, let's say they got a lot of SHT. My grandparents still don't talk to him today. My aunt packed up my room because I refused to go back into that house. I've not spoken to my father in years or met my half-brother. Tammy and Dad still try to fix our relationship. Apparently sometimes pregnant women get a hatred against people or pets for no reason. I'm turning 18 in 3 weeks, and a cousin's girlfriend asked me about inviting my dad, so I told her the story. She told me while what they did was wrong, what I did was an arsehole thing too, because I made them worstress and go to multiple people's houses during a pandemic that put a pregnant woman having a mental health issue at risk by whole stunt. So AITAH for letting my dad think I was missing. Relevant comments, and OP's response to them. Ambitious_topic 4472. You can say to them that you moved on, you forgave them, but you are not interested in having a relationship with them. But you'd like to have a relationship with your brother. And go from there. OP, they won't let that happen. My dad has been trying for 4 years to get me to speak to him or fix the relationship. He even tried taking my mom to court to force me to visit. Like my mom had to physically remove Tammy by the hair because she refused to get out of her car once until we talked it out, saying she was my stepmom for 10 years and she couldn't bear losing her daughter. I had to leave out some much because the post would be a book. Kindly rephrase. Accepting their apology and an opportunity to have a relationship with your sibling. Not letting them take up free rent in your head. And knowing who you can rely on are all positive outlooks for the future once you've had a chance to deal with your feelings and your new viewpoint on your father-stepmom. But they both failed you and showed you they won't have your back when you need it. It sounds like you have the backing of some pretty stable people. Everyone has to learn what box to put people in to create boundaries and know where a relationship lies. I'm sorry to hear it was your father who failed you and not a study buddy or recently acquired friend. Seek therapy and rely on those who support you. Pregnancy is not an excuse for abuse and abandonment. She continually exhibited abusive behavior, which your father chose to ignore and then support, and said it was a mistake, which makes him complicit. Which it is the mistake? The abuse. The ignoring it for months. The abandonment. A real father says this is stressful. Your aunt is taking you in, not GTFO. Then woe is me, where's my kid? The fact it took them being called out to make them see the light is the final straw for me. Do they even see the light? Do you want to take that risk? College is calling. Take that opportunity to normalize, socialize, educate, use campus resources for therapy, and use your support system as a buffer if you decide to reintegrate slowly back into your dad's circle. Dip your toes in and use the distance to set the boundary. OP. I'm in therapy since after it happened my mental health was really bad. Like I've come a long way. I'm medication too for anxiety, and I've very bad trust issues since it all happened, but one day I will get there hopefully. My friend and her parents were shocked when they saw me. I lost a lot of weight, and my hair was extremely thin from falling out due to stress. My aunt took pictures as well to show in court. Angel9_ writes, "They made the mess. They can live with the consequences. They both sound controlling in how they dealt with it too. OP, I don't know about the last few years since I've left, but before lockdown I had a great relationship with them both and no issues, which made everything so hard to understand at the time. But I do know because the lawyer mentioned it to my mom that a lot of kids and women found themselves in the same situation. But a lot worse, like I wasn't classified as an emergency, so it wouldn't go to court for at the very least a year. By the looks of it, lockdown brought out a few people's monsters. Verdict: not the arsehole. Update. Hi guys, I honestly thought I'd never give an update, but here I'm going to call my cousin's girlfriend Sarah and my cousin Paul. So I mentioned in a comment I uninvited Sarah from the party. Yesterday Paul came over to talk. He told me Sarah had issues in the past with her younger siblings. It was apparently really bad, like her siblings lived with their mom full-time and she lived with her dad. Long story short, Sarah was diagnosed with bipolar disorder in college and went to therapy. He said even though she's apologized, her siblings still won't have anything to do with her, which breaks her heart. Paul said Sarah told him that when I told her what happened, it triggered her because it reminded her of her situation with her siblings. I didn't mention it in the other post because it was really irrelevant to what I was asking. But Sarah texted me about letting go of the hate, links to sites about family members with mental health issues, and numbers of family therapists, even subreddits on here. He told me Sarah wanted to meet up to clear the air and apologize in person. I said okay. Sarah texted about half an hour later about collecting me because she wanted to drive to a new restaurant that newly opened in the next town over as her pre-birthday treat to me. We know what she was planning, but Tammy ruined it for her by calling my mom to tell her Sarah's plans to help us make up. I wrote my dad a letter 2 days ago as a lot of you suggested. I put everything in there and told him how it affects me to this day. I told him I wanted a relationship with my brother, but I wasn't sure I'd ever want one with him. I told him to leave me alone because his actions are only pushing me away even more, and if I ever decide I want to talk to him, it will be on my terms with my mom present. The letter ended up being 5 pages, and you guys were right. It did make me feel better. My mom dropped it off that day, and Dad asked to meet her a day later. They talked about me meeting my brother, and my dad said he wants to buy me a car with no strings attached. Tammy and Dad also asked if it would be okay to give me money to get myself something for my birthday. You guys are going to hate me for this, but I'm taking the car and $500. If he wants to give me more he can, because college supplies and moving into a dorm are expensive. Back to Sarah. She's basically contacted Tammy via Facebook. Tammy sent my mom the screenshots, telling her everything I said rather than asking Tammy her side, because Sarah didn't believe me to Tammy's credit. She told the truth and took full accountability. It was Sarah who kept trying to make out Tammy was the victim. Sarah told Tammy about her own past and said she'd tried to mend our relationship. Tammy told her that she didn't want her to. The last message was Sarah telling Tammy the location and time we'd be at the restaurant. She even said she'd drive me so I couldn't leave, even though I just asked a waitress for help or called my mom. My mom posted the screenshots into the group chat and called Sarah. A bunch of names told her if she ever came near me again, she'd regret it. I blocked Sarah and left the group chat, so I don't know what happened afterwards. But Paul came over with my aunt and swore he knew nothing about it. To be honest, I don't know if I believe him because he was trying to defend Sarah again, which got him a verbal lashing from my aunt and mom. That's it, really. I'm going to update in a few months to let you guys know how everything went with my brother. I feel like I owe everyone that after so many people helped me take that step, because honestly, words can't describe how happy it's made me. Literally the best birthday present I could have gotten. Thank you so much for the amazing advice and people sharing their own experiences. Even the woman who suffered mental illness, Tammy, did it. It helped me understand it a bit more, but I still can't forgive her. I don't think we can ever rebuild our relationship, especially to what it was. More relevant comments and OP's response to them. WLFWRTR. Would love to know the conversation where Paul was defending Sarah and mom and aunt gave him a tongue lashing. Are Sarah and Paul still together? OP. I've not spoken to him since, and my mom said don't worry about adult business. Just focus on the rest of my summer and my upcoming party. But the way he was talking about her, if I had to guess, he is. 8 marshmallows. Did Sarah's inability to respect boundaries have anything to do with her family refusing to see her? OP. From what I've been told by Paul and the stuff I saw in the screenshots, she was horrible to her siblings. I dare say abusive, even in the watered-down version. She said in one episode she cut up her sister's clothes and ruined all her makeup by throwing them against her sister's bedroom walls. But then also said she replaced everything afterwards and apologized. So she doesn't understand why the sister still holds it against her. There's a lot more she said in the messages to Tammy. My little bits. Well, to Tammy's credit, she did not participate in this deception, and, as soon as she learned of it, informed your mother. Your father made a mistake. A bad mistake. Tammy was unwell and in crisis. It's up to you to move forward. You can have zero relationship with your father or work on repairing. And repairing doesn't mean they have to dance to your tune. Taking the car and money without making an effort to connect is greedy. You are almost 18. It's time to think about who it is you want to be. OP. I didn't ask for the car or the money. He gave it with no strings attached. If he said I'd have to talk to him, I wouldn't accept it. He doesn't have to legally give me another penny in 3 more weeks. But if he chooses to do that, it's on him. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.